from the user, and few basic data types which we need. So mostly those data types are fine enough to cover almost every complex things. So uh, think so you may need of something apart from that. Okay, so I hope we have almost covered every data type, and also we have covered our looping statements and if conditions. So conditioning and logical operations, this those things are also done. So I hope like today we can start with functions. Okay, so far what you have seen is we have seen only like the whole code is going to run only once, or maybe in this case it is going to run for a particular amount of time. Okay, so first is why we need a function. So why we need a function, then we'll see what is a function. So there may be a case where you need to rewrite the same code again and again. Let's say for n number of times you need to use the same code again and again. So in that case, what you can do is you can use a function. So what this function is going to do for you is this function is going to you wrote whatever the code which you think which you are going to use again and again into a function, and what you can simply do is you can call that function. You can say like go and execute the thing which I wrote into a certain kind of a block. So imagine like functions like a kind of a block or a box. So you wrote something into a box, and this box what you are going to do is you are going to, whenever you want this certain functionality to be done, you are going to call this block for you. So what this block or box is going to do for you is it is going to execute the code, and it is going to give you the results. So instead of writing the same code again.
Sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, I think so. Robert's network is bad. We will wait for a few minutes. Rahul, you are in mute.
Now is it audible?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not in greater delay, right? I think so. Okay, so I hope I'm audible. And so where okay, so the function is basically to write some code into a kind of a chain like a block, and then you can reuse the block again and again whenever you want. So this is what I thought. I think it is the last thing I think was there. So to for an example, I wrote a small function over here. This function always starts with def. This is your keyword, and this is your function name. So what is the function name you need to put over here? And a parenthesis, and the parenthesis will have some arguments. So you may have something over here, but for now let's like plain function. It is not going to have any arguments. Let's say like this, and then inside this you want to write something which is inside the function. What you can do is you can do a tab space or a kind of spacing over there, so that whatever inside the function is like from inside the function. Okay, it's like this welcome is going to print inside this function. So this is how the function syntax will look like. This is how you need to write a function. So I have written over here a small syntax also here, and I hope it is now visible for you guys. I actually, and you can to give your statements over here. So what are the statements you want to execute? You can do inside a tab space or like a spacing, whatever spacing you prefer to can give. So this is how the syntax of a functions will look like. Okay, like how the syntax will look like is you need to give this keyword name, and then you need to give a function name, and then what you can do is you can give any kind of arguments if you want, or it can be no arguments also. And then what are the lines, like what is the thing you want to execute inside the function. So right now I just wrote a function called show welcome. It is just to show a print of a welcome message. It is going to print a welcome message for you. Okay, so what I can do is I can call this function. So this is how you define a function. Now you need to call the function. So to call a function, you need to give the function name. So this is my function name and the parenthesis. So inside here, you need to have what are the list of parameters you want. So this is how you can call a function. Okay, so let me run this program now. So if I run this program here, you can see my welcome message is printed, and this is how it is running. Okay, so if you want to run, like if you want to print this welcome for so many times, what you can do is I can simply make like how many times I want. I can call, like I can call this. So for each and every time I'm calling, whatever it's just inside this function is going to execute for me. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, I think so. So I have 5 times. So if I run this program now, so what I will end up is I will having a 5 times a print of welcome will be printed for me now. So this is how a basic syntax of functions will look like. Um, this is how to declare a function. Like this is a keyword and the function name and some parentheses inside here. A list of arguments will coming up next. And what are the functions, like what are the statements you want to put inside the function? You can put it over here. Okay, and to call a function, what you can do is you can use the function name, the same function name which you put over here. It has to match over here, and here you need to give a list of arguments so that this will call your function. So if you have not called this function, so let's say I just commented out the calling line. Okay, if I run this program now again, you won't see a print of welcome, like no print of welcome is here, right? Because we haven't called this function. So whatever inside this like this function will not execute until unless you haven't called the function. So if you call the function, it will execute that line. So far, any doubts in this functions?
No doubt.
Okay, and we can go to some other example. Let me take another example. So let's take a classic example of addition. So let's say you are going to write some calculator program. So you need to have your addition, multiplication, subtraction, which has to come whenever user plus addition. Whenever the user plus multiplication, you need to do multiplication on that. So what you can do is you can see this addition and multiplication is going to come again and again for you. So what you can do is you can have this method called addition. So add for you up and ready. And for this method for addition, what you need at least two arguments. One is a, let's say my value a and my value b. Instead of this, what I can do is value 1 and this is my value 2. These are the two values which I'm going to add for now. Okay, so this function is going to add two values. So I just ask two values as a parameter, like input from the user. Okay, so who are going to call this user, like going to call this function, they need to pass this two value for me. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sum. Okay, so this is like a result. Let's say result equal to value 1 plus of value 2. So I'm going to add this two value. Okay, so I added it, and let's say I'm going to print this value. So I'm going to print the result. So if you see this function over here, you can see we have something called arguments over here. So to receive these two values, what you can do is you can give like a value 1 and value 2 over here, and this value 1 value 2 will be available for you, and you can use it in your function. Inside this function, what you can do is you can use this values. Okay, so for now I'm going to call this function. So to call this function, I'm giving 10 comma 5. So let me save this, and what it is going to happen is we are going to call this add function. This is here, and we are going to pass the 10 as value 1 and 5 as value 2. So it will take from the index. So if whichever you give first, it will going and assign to the first thing. So I'm assigning the value of 10 to the value 1 and 5 to the value 2. And inside the function, what I have wrote is I have just written addition like a syntax, and then what I'm doing is I'm just printing the result. So I'm adding these two numbers and then I'm printing this result. So let me rerun this. Okay, you can see this 15 is coming over here. So the example, like the difference between these two examples are, so it is not having any arguments. So if you want to pass something to your file, what you can do is you can do something like, and you can pass your value to it, and you can get the summation, and you can print the results or whatever you want to do with this one. So let's say if you want to add another two values, what you can do is you can do addition, and you can do like 12 comma 5. So what it is going to do now is it is going to add these two values. So first time it got 15, on the second game you got 17. Okay, so this is how to pass some arguments or some values to a function so that the function can effectively use these values and they can work on it. Okay, still now any doubts?
No.
Okay, so I hope this is also clear for you. And now what we are going to see is we are going to return a value. So let's say you process this addition, and now what you are going to do is you are going to return this value to the who are the guy who called this function. So what I'm going to do is instead of printing it over here, I'm just returning this value to the guy who called this function. So whoever called this add function with these two parameters, they will get the result as a return back to them. Okay, so a result equal to, then I will say print of results. For now I'll just comment this one. Now you can see the 15 is coming. Okay, but it is what happening inside this function is it is receiving the two values, value 1 and value 2. It is adding the value, and instead of printing directly from here, we have commented this print code, and what we are doing is we are calculating the result, which is the result, and we are returning this result. So if you return this result, you can get from, like, this is the calling line. So here only I'm calling this add function. So from wherever you are calling this, right, over there it will result this value. So I'm assigning result equal to, and then I'm calling this function. So this function is going to return me a value of addition of these two numbers which I'm going to pass to it. So once my result is stored into this variable, and I'm just printing it over here. Just recap, I will do one time, I will debug this code for you so that it will be easy for you guys to understand. Okay, saving it, debugging it. So you can see this is my first line which is going to run, and here I'm going to call this function. So if I call this function, the code execution flow will go to this line. Okay, and you can see we don't have a variable one and val1 and value2 still with us now. So it will come only until if we go into this function. Okay, so I'm going to the next line. So I went into this function. So my value 1 is 10 and my value 2 is 5. So it has assigned the value from here, the 10 to value 1 and 5 to the value 2. So now your value 1 and value 2 are coming. So now what I am doing is I'm calculating the result. So result now is 15. You can see it over here. So result is now 15. What I'm going to do is I'm going to return this result which I have calculated now. So I'm going to the next line. So this code is going to return the value from here. So whatever over here res is going to return from here. So then that result is going to stay into this variable called result. So you can see now your result variable is 15. So this is your result variable and it is now 15. So now I am printing my result variable over here. So if I print it, you can see this 15 is printing over here. So so for any doubts in a return statement, how to return a value? I hope there will be no doubts in this one. So this is how to declare a function without any arguments, and to declare a function with arguments, and to declare a function which has arguments and which will return you a value for you. Okay, this return will be mostly helpful for most of the cases, because uh, most of the time you won't do print and you won't do like you if you do calculator. So the addition value you need to give it back to the user back, so you can use this return. So this return will be quite useful for you. So remember that. And the next thing what I'm going to do is you can return one or two values for, back to the guy. So in Python, what you can do is you can you can return more than one values also. So to explain that, what I will do is I will write a snippet code. If this is for return example, so I made this red. Okay, and I'm just giving a value a and value b. Okay, I'm just let's say I'm giving a value a alone. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to return value a comma a star 2. So I'm printing two values. I'm returning two values now, a and the second two multiplication of a. So it is like a two times of a. So I'm doing this two back. Okay. So whenever you are calling this function, right? So like let's say I'm going to call this function. It's my red, and I'm going to give this value 4. Okay. It is since it is going to return you two values. What you need to do over here is you need to get into a two variables. So the first one is like uh, say normal, and that is like a multiplied. So I'm giving mult. Okay, this variable names doesn't make sense for you. So just it is this example is just going to explain you. So in function you can return more than one values also. You don't want to be returning only one value. So you can return one or two values. That is the main like case of this example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print your normal, which is going to give, and your multiplication value mul. Okay, so these are the values I'm going to print. So if I run the same code again, you can see 2, I think you can see 4, and the fourth multiplication of 2, like 4 into 2, is just equal to 8. You can see it over here. So if I change to 8 or 7 or something, it will give you the respective value. So the key point over here is you can return more than one value in the function. So where in the case of Java, you cannot return more than one value, I believe, unless until 1.8. I know until 1.8 you cannot return more than one value. So you need to couple, like you need to make it into an object, or like you need to convert into some other data types, and then you need to return. But in the case of Python, what you can do is you can return more than one value. Let's say you want to return three values. Let's say a star of 3. This is for just for an example. So I want to return three values. You can do like this. So this is like multiplication of 3. So this is how return you can give more than one values to the user, like from the function. You can return one or more than one values as however you want with the Python. Okay, I hope this return is clear. And the next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have a return. That's all. There is no value over there. I'm just making a return statement. So if you do just a return without any values over here, any kind of values over here, it will do return of none. So none is like an empty type null. So it has returned me none. I'll go to the CMD alone. Okay. So if I do just a return and without any value, so it will return me a none object, like this, like a none type. So which means there is no value. It is like an empty like kind of a box. So it will return you none. So let's say if you don't have returns also, like let's say you have something for printing A, and if you see now I'm not returning anything. In that case also it will return none. So you can see the none is returned. So this 7 is coming from this print A, and I'm returning the value. I'm saving whatever the value which I'm returning, I'm saving into the normal variable, and the normal is what I'm printing over here. So if you see here, if you don't give a return, it will defaultly has a empty return which is going to return you none. So you can have an explicit return like this. It is also going to return null. Or what you can do is you can give like this one also fine. This one is also going to return you none. So even though if there is no return statement in your function, it is going to return a value none for you. Okay, at the end of each and every function. Fine. Clear with this one, or types of return, whatever the return you can do, like multi-value returns and returning none value, just return, and all the three things. So these are the things with the return it is possible. So you can return one value like a none, or if you do something similar to this, it is going to return none, and if you give something similar to this, it is going to return 1 2 and 3. Okay, and there is one more thing, like, so right now what I have done is have written this print statement below your return. Okay, so what it will do is it won't execute the print which is written, and anything which is in after your return will not execute. So what this return is going to do is it is going to return the code of flow back to the guy who called it. So let's say the flows will come, so it is going to call this function, it will call this function with a. Since there is a return over here, what it will do is it will come back to the over here, and it is going to return none value. So this print A will not happen, since because it is after return. So whatever which is after the return code, it will not work for you. Okay, print it now. So you don't see the print of this A is happening, which is your print is happening. So to just make sure it's something like this. So it going is going to give you the some kind of value this print is invoking. So I'm printing this, but it is not coming. If I move this line above your return, so now in this case your return will be working. So you can see my some values and 7 is coming. So anything which you wrote below your return, which will not work. Okay, the code will return back to the calling guy. The code execution flow will return back to the call to the line where you call this function. Okay, clear with this passing arguments to it and the return. So far, any doubts?
No.
So now what we have seen is we have seen some integer values passing, and we got some integer value back to us. So now what we are going to do is we want to pass some list to a function. Let's say you have list called L. Okay, don't follow this naming conventions like L, A, B, C, anything. I'm just writing it over here just for my easiness to take this class. So just give a correct naming convention. Don't give any names like uh, A, B, C, and all. So just for this class, I'm doing this. In my code, I won't write like this. Okay, so do you guys also just follow this? Okay, so I have a list called 1 2 3 4 5. So now what I need to do is I need to multiply each and every number of this list with 2. Okay, so for that I'm going to write a function. Okay, so definition. This is my function. My function is going to multiply uh, by 2. It is going to multiply each and every value by 2. So I have given like this, and as it is going to read the values from it. So it is the values variable, So I'm reading values, and then I'm going to multiply each of the values with 2. Okay, so for values and values, for all the values in this values, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this value. Let's say I'm going to have a new list over here. This is my result equal to, I'm going to have a list over here, and then the each value which I got from the list, right? So I'm going to multiply by 2, and then I'm going to append to this list. So I hope you are clear with this list functions append and all, so it will be easier for you guys. So I'm going to multiply this value, which for each and every value from this values list, I'm going to take a value, and then I'm going to multiply by 2, and then I'm going to add it to my result list, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to return my result list. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this multiply function. So okay, I'm going to call this multiply function, and then I'm going to pass my list, and what I'm going to do is instead of saving into a variable and then printing that variable, I'm just directly wrapping this whole method into a print. So this will be printed back to the console. Now let me run this program. So you can see here your each and every value from this list is multiplied with 2. So this is how you can pass a list to a function, and you can do an operation from here, and then you can return this list from here. Okay, if you want to return, you can return. If you don't want to return, what you can do is simply you can print it over here. Let's say I don't want to return this list. This is just for here alone. What you can do is you can print this list, and hopefully you don't want a print also over here. These two are same. Going to multiply. So this is some example for passing a list to it, and then editing it, and then returning a list from the function. Okay. So far, any doubts? Okay, I hope there are no doubts. And the next thing which I'm going to take is little important. Okay. Uh, let's say we have a variable called a. This is not recommended. I'm just giving for easy sake to understanding and for uh, those things. Okay, don't give any variable names like a and other things. Okay, and then I'm going to have a function named with test. Okay, this is a test function. So what this function is going to do is it is going to print the value of a. Okay, and then I'm going to call this function from here. This is your, so I declared a variable called a equal to 10 on the top of this function, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the value from the a, but I haven't declared any a from this function, so there is no declaration of any a from this function. So if I call this function, what it will do is it will go and check whether there is any a variable first inside this function. So since there is no any a variables inside this function, it will go to the global scope. It is like we have a variable which is available in our global scope. It is like this a variable is available. So what it will do is it is go and it will take this a from the global scope, which is like 11 from this one. So whatever code you wrote which is outside any functions, like a simple code which is there in the file, is called a global scope, and whatever you write which is inside your function, it is called as function scope. Okay, remember that. So if I run this program now, since the a is available outside your function, the function can able to access the value of a which is outside your function. Okay, this is how it you can able to access a which is outside your function into inside your function. Okay, any doubts in this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Uh, Cyrus noted that you can call me Rahul. Okay. So I'm going to create a variable called b equal to 10, Okay, I'm going to be able to read, and then I'm printing this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print this value of outside this function scope. So this b is declared inside your function. So this b cannot be used outside your function. Outside your function, it will say it was not defined, or it will throw you an error called not defined, because this b is not available outside your function in your global scope. This b, whatever the function you declared in, like what are the variables you declared inside a function, is going to have a scope or a lifetime only inside this function. If you come out of a function, this variable will be vanished. You cannot use this variable. Okay, clear? So anything outside your function scope you can use inside your function scope. Anything inside your function scope you cannot use from the outside world. Okay, I hope you guys are clear with that. And the next thing what I'm going to use, I'm going to reuse the same my a variable. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassign the value of a to 11. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have declared a variable called 10, and I'm creating a method. So this is my test method, and then I'm having a variable again a. So I'm declaring again a variable called 11, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the a variable. So I'm going to print the a variable inside this function. So if you scroll down, like down in here, I'm in my global scope, I'm just printing a before even calling my function, and then I call my function, and then I'm just printing again my a. So what efficiently will happen is first it will print the value of a, which is equal to 10. Okay, and this code will be executed. This test function will execute. So again I'm redeclaring a value, like I'm declaring a variable called a, which is equal to 11. So this print a will going to print you 11. Okay, so you came out of your function scope. Now this a which you declared inside your function scope will be destroyed. So now again you are coming out of this function scope, you are in a global scope now. So the a value will be go back again to the 10. Okay, so let me run this one, and you can see before calling this function your value is 10. Okay, and while you are calling this function, inside a function we are declaring a variable called a. Since the variable a is declared over here, it is a new variable, and the scope is going to be only inside this function. So inside this function the value of a is 11. Again once the function is executed, so this code is done, and we are coming to the same line over here. So now the value of a is printing from line number 57. So it won't print 11 because the scope of this 11 is only inside this function. It will print only 10. So any doubts in this one? Any scope?
No.
Clear with this one, right?
Sir, can you repeat it again?
Yeah, I can repeat it to you. So let me put a. Do I need to do with the breakpoint, or just I will? Do I need to repeat it for you? If you want, I can put breakpoints. It will be more good for you. Let me do it in a breakpoint. But I think so. We have just a minute. Okay. I don't think so. I cannot fully explain you within this. So we'll go. I think this call will end by 6:50. So we can take a break. Again, we can connect by 7. So that time I will explain you back this thing again with the debugging option. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay. I hope it, like, other than like any other people has any other doubt. But anyhow, I'm going to re-explain this again after this call. I'm just waiting because if I start it won't finish within 6:50. Just a minute.